You know the silhouette, right? That iconic circle of massive stones against the English sky. It's instantly recognizable. For thousands of years, Stonehenge has just stood there, this silent monument to what an ancient people could achieve. But behind that famous image is a story of incredible ingenuity and, of course, enduring mystery that we're going to dive into.
Okay, so here it is, Stonehenge. When you see it from above like this, you really get a sense of the sheer scale and the precision of it all. I mean, it just dominates the entire landscape. This was a deliberate, powerful statement made by people who lived over 5,000 years ago.
In this monument, it really boils down to two huge questions that have fascinated people forever. First, how? How on earth did a prehistoric society with no modern tech pull off a feat of engineering this staggering? And maybe even more important, why? What drove them to pour generations of effort into this one single project? Now, to really wrap your head around Stonehenge, you have to understand just how old it is. The very first work on this site kicked off around 3100 BCE. So think about this. Its story begins before the Great Pyramids of Giza were even a blueprint. We're talking about an echo from a truly ancient world.
You know, the key to understanding Stonehenge is knowing it wasn't built all at once. Nope, it was a project that evolved over something like 1,500 years. The very first phase, which started way back then, was actually way simpler than what we see today, but it absolutely set the stage for everything that was to come.
So, believe it or not, it all started with earth, not stone. Using tools that they carved from bone and rock, workers dug this huge circular ditch and bank, and that kind of structure is what archaeologists actually call a henge. Inside this circle, they dug 56 deep pits, which we now call the Aubrey holes, and they probably held these towering wooden posts.
And then came the first stones. And this is where the scale of this whole thing becomes absolutely mind-boggling. These are the blue stones. Each one weighs up to 4 tons. Now, geologists have traced them all the way to the Preseli Hills in Wales. That's a staggering 250 miles away. Just try to imagine the coordination and the pure human power it took to haul them over land and water.
So about 100 years go by, and the whole purpose of the monument takes a pretty dramatic turn. It goes from being this ceremonial site to something much more personal and profound.
It was totally transformed into a burial ground, a cemetery. But this wasn't for just anyone. This was reserved for the absolute tippy-top elite of their society.
So who were these people? The cremated remains of at least 55 individuals tell a pretty cool story. They were mostly men between 25 and 40 years old, and their skeletons show they lived lives of privilege. You don't see the wear and tear from a life of hard labor. These were almost certainly Britain's first ruling class, maybe a dynasty of chieftains or even king.
But the biggest, most dramatic, and let's face it, most famous chapter in Stonehenge's history was still to come. Around 2500 BCE, Phase 3 of construction began, and this is what transformed the site into the masterpiece we all recognize today.
This is when the giants showed up. These are the sarsen stones, and they were quarried from about 20 miles away. They were used to build that iconic outer circle. Each one of these upright stones weighs, on average, 25 tons. We are talking about a whole new level of engineering.
And if you think 25 tons is heavy, oh, they were not done. The largest stones they used for the inner part of the structure weighed up to 50 tons each. That is the weight of about 7 adult elephants. The scale of the ambition here is it's staggering.
So inside that main circle, they put up 5 of these massive trilithons. It's basically 2 upright stones with 1 lintel stone laid across the top. They arranged them in a horseshoe shape. The tallest of these reached 24 feet into the sky, creating this truly awe-inspiring inner sanctum. But the real genius of these builders is in the details. See, they didn't just stack stones on top of each other, they sculpted them. They actually borrowed techniques from woodworking, using mortise and tenon joints to lock those huge lintels in place. And get this, they even made subtle visual corrections. The uprights get a little wider toward the top, and the lintels have a slight curve. This wasn't just building, this was sophisticated architecture, designed for a perfect visual effect.
When you see the whole timeline laid out, it's so clear that Stonehenge was never static. For 1,500 years, it was a living project. Each generation built on the work of the last, transforming it from a simple ditch in the ground into the absolute masterpiece we see today.
Which, of course, brings us back to the biggest question of all, why? After all that effort, what was the ultimate point of Stonehenge? Well, while there are a lot of theories, the most compelling evidence seems to point up, towards the sky.
The key is its alignment with the sun. The entire structure is precisely oriented. On the longest day of the year, the midsummer solstice, the rising sun is perfectly framed by the stones. And on the shortest day of the year, the midwinter solstice, the setting sun lines up perfectly too.
It was a massive, monumental calendar. It marked the turning of the seasons. And for an agricultural society, that wasn't just practical, it was deeply spiritual. It connected the cycles of life and death here on Earth to the eternal cycles of the heavens. It gave order and meaning to their entire world.
So what is Stonehenge? In the end, it was never just one thing. It was a temple, it was a tomb, it was an astronomical calendar, and it was a masterpiece of engineering. But more than anything, it's a testament to a people who, thousands of years ago, were already asking these profound questions about their place in the universe, and who had the ambition and the sheer skill to build their answer in stone.